welcome everybody to Hip Hop 101. My name is Benicio Josie, and just by means of introduction, I'm an assistant principal in New Jersey, right outside of Atlantic City. I'm doing it for 5 years. I taught television production for 12 years before then. In a former life, I used to work at TV. I worked at ESPN and ABC before I decided to make this switch over into education. I currently also run a business called the Empowerment Perspective, which is business cards are there, and a nonprofit called Arts and Quality, which deals with film festivals across the world. So that's just my brief background introduction. Partner, Ms. Darlene DeHaan.
Yes, hi, my name is Darlene DeHaan. I'm presently a vice principal, about to become the director of curriculum instruction for the Arts District in Math and Science. I also have a nonprofit called Motivational Science, my background is math and science.
Last but not least, my name is Kareem Spence. I'm a school counselor. I've been working within the school environment for the last 5 years. Previous to that, I worked with students that are coming out of juvenile detention. I was a case manager. Before that, I worked in a temporary youth home for students that were involved in DIFAS, as well as, the DIFAS in New Jersey is Division of Family Services. But again, I've been working with kids about maybe 10 to 15 years now, off and on. Counseling is one of the things that I love to do because it allows me to be able to change lives. But I have one-on-one counseling sessions. I'm engaged, and again, my whole thing is being able to change one student at a time.
Okay. So we're going to talk about hip hop as a culture. I'm going to break down what culture is and why hip hop is a culture. And specifically, we're going to start to get into certain perceptions of what hip hop culture is and music is in general. And the students that we see on a daily basis, they have embraced the culture. So we have a saying that we need to be students of our students. So we dig deep into the culture so that we can relate to them and be able to pull some of those elements into the classroom, also into the community. Because hip hop's not going anywhere. These kids are enjoying it and they're liking it. We need, as adults and educators, need to be able to understand it. And the question that we're going to ask is, what do you feel are the common misconceptions of hip hop culture? So we want you to take a look at those images and just share on there if you can, or if you want to share out to us, if we can do that as well, what you believe to be some common misconceptions of hip hop music and culture.
Yes. While you guys are doing that, just to piggyback off what the video said, was again, you have third graders that can memorize an entire song. And typically a hip hop song is over 3 minutes. But you try to sit them down for 3 minutes, you'll get the very worst behavior. You'll get them doing everything but reading. But if you make it where it's though that it's fun for them, you engage them properly, now what happens is that now you have that student. We can share, right?
Oh, yeah. I think the big misconception is that it's void of ethics or morals or things like that.
Absolutely. That's good.
You said ethics and morals?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else want to share?
Sometimes I feel like it gets into chaos when I start dancing and singing with it. It becomes more chaotic in my room than, and I'm a choir director, so.
Choir director. Okay. All right, so we have chaos, we have morals. What do you have?
I think I've heard like objectifying women or something like that.
Okay, demoralizing women. Okay. Anyone else want to share?
How about language? Even though this is for 6 to 12, I have a 7-year-old who loves hip hop.
Okay.
And how do I find songs, or how do I engage that when a lot of the lyrics are like, I think my principal won't like this.
Okay. We're going to get to solutions a little bit later, but that's interesting. What do you have, sir?
Some violence.
Violence. Okay. Really interesting. Okay. Really.
Did that work?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what we hear in the media and hear around these common misconceptions. I'm going to talk about culture in general, and then some of the artifacts of culture. So when we talk about culture, we have these certain categories. Obviously, when people hear hip-hop music, the first thing they think about is the art and the drama part of hip-hop culture. What makes a culture culture? We talk about attitudes, beliefs, language, customs, rituals. You can read all the rest of them. In each of these categories, we could put hip-hop in it. Hip-hop is definitely about attitude. There's a reason why we dress this way today. It's because it's not about the status quo. I wear a suit every single day. I know presenters come in here with suits every day, so we said we're going to do something different and represent what we are. When I tell you that I live the hip-hop culture, I am hip-hop. I walk it, I talk it, I breathe it. It is a part of my belief system. The way that individuals talk, for example, we talk about language. Hip-hop has its own set of language. What it does is flips language on its head. and make something that you can call bad,
Mhm.
turn it to good.
Yes.
So they're constantly flipping it. There's a language that needs to be understood. Us as educators, we need to understand that language because we need to be able to communicate with our children.
Yes.
We need to be able to communicate with their needs as well.
So traditionally, when we want a student to find a word or be able to understand the word, we use a dictionary. We use Webster's. And in there, you have a list of words that was actually given and provided a definition for. When it comes to hip hop, the word can mean something today and totally different tomorrow. Because hip hop in itself, the culture, is a living culture. It doesn't stay the same. It's constantly changing as people change. And as new people come into the culture, they find an interest in it and they start to change.
Absolutely. So again, the way that we talk, the way that we walk, all those things are a part of that culture. So again, culture in general, those are the artifacts of any given culture. When we talk about hip hop, I'm not going to dig too deep into the history of it, but I'll give you a little bit of a background to it because we'll be here for a long time if I can get into the whole entire history of it. There are 4 elements to hip hop. So you have the DJ, you have the MC, you have the dancer, and you have the artist. There's 4 elements to hip hop culture. Hip hop started, there's argument where in New York City it was started. But I'm going to go with the popular opinion that it was started in the South Bronx. And what happened in the 70s, in the early 70s, or late 60s and the early 70s was, you have to understand the cultural climate at that time. Society was saying that you can't be a part of certain things for this group of people. You can't go to certain art classes, you can't go to certain music classes. You are basically an entity unto yourself.
Yes.
With lack of resources, these were kids that created this culture. They were 17, 18, 19 years old and said, you know what? I don't need that. I'm gonna create my own. It sounds a lot like STEM to me. They were constantly redesigning everything.
Yeah, so when it comes to perception, again, I'm a school counselor, I've been doing it for quite some time now. And when I was in elementary and middle school, I was the absolute worst student that you want in your classroom. Because I know how far I can go before you call my dad. I can get right here to the line, right before you send me to the principal's office, or before you had to call my dad. And every single day, I'm in your classroom and I'm challenging you. And it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. It's because I was bored. So after I got done my work, guess what? It's showtime. And I'm still the same way today. Everywhere I go, I cause a problem.
Yes, he does.
That's just what I am. But what people don't see is the resilience. What people don't see that at the young age of 19, I lost my mother, who was my greatest fan. I played sports, played baseball. I have a blueprint on how you can fail. That's another workshop we'll do for you guys. But more importantly is that when you have these students that come in your classroom, your perception or what your expectation is going to be what they're going to give you. So if they come in your classroom and you've had these pre-meetings with teachers and you found out that this kid likes to do this and he's the worst thing ever and this is the neighborhood that he comes from and all of them don't want nothing, then guess what? He's going to give you exactly what you're asking for. What your expectation is what you're going to get every day in the classroom. And this particular kid, he may have had attendance issues before, but he's coming to your classroom every single day. On time. He's never going to be late because now it's going to be a battle. Now I'm going to show all my friends how much I can do to you to throw you off. And you're supposed to be a professional. I've had meetings with parents and they said, well, who's the adult in the classroom? Because now, when he goes off schedule or he goes off task, now you're going back and forth with this student and nobody learns. And in the classroom of 25 students, guess what? 24 of them are happy that they're not getting any work. Why? Because now they don't have no classwork, they don't have no homework. So now they become fans. He's controlling the entire classroom and there's nothing that you can do. But we have a solution and we'll get to that later. So when you see these guys are really, they're resilient, they're motivated, and they had to find a way out. And the same music that they make, we actually crucify them for. Why? Because they're using language that they use in their neighborhood. They're talking about stuff that happens in their neighborhood. It's from their perception. So when they come in the classroom, we're telling them, hey, listen, you're wrong. Everything about you, everything about your culture is wrong. Nowhere else in the world do we make people feel uncomfortable except in the classroom when I get our kids every single day. Why? Because we have the expectation of who they are. Just because they dress a certain way. Some people can't afford a haircut. Some people only have 3 pair of pants. Some people, when they come to school, they smell that way. They smell that way because they don't have a laundromat, nor do they have a wash and dryer in the house. But this is what hip-hop is. Hip-hop is going to embrace you, regardless of your color, your religion, your creed, it doesn't matter. Hip-hop is always going to embrace you. It's really the only genre of music that everybody's welcome.
I want to jump in real quick.
Yes, sir.
Because we got to understand in terms of the lyrics that are created. There's a musical aspect and a business aspect of it. So when you have students or people, artists coming from these environments, they're going to write about what they see. So I'll take somebody like Jay-Z, for example. We started in the game and talked about misogynist lyrics and money and all that stuff. It's a tactic. I need to gain audience. I need to gain listeners. And once I have you, now I can start talking about infidelity in marriages. I can now talk about what it feels like someone else raising my son and what Jay-Z's doing with his current lyrics now. So even if you break down some of the worst artists that you've seen in terms of lyrics, if you actually listen to the story and listen to what's going on underneath of it, you'll understand the resiliency that Mr. Spencer's talking about. You'll understand the concept of I need to make something out of nothing. You know, I was given nothing, so now I can flip it and turn it into something else.
And one thing I want to talk about, when we spoke about the classroom and the instructions in the classroom, when I had first started teaching, I taught in a very rough neighborhood in southern New Jersey, and I taught forensic science. So I remember this one kid, we all have that one kid that will come in, and I used to dread that class. Dread. And so he would come in, he would say something, and I would sit there and go back and forth with this kid, back and forth with this kid. This became a day-to-day situation. So one day, one of the students came to me and they're like, Mr. Han, he plans it. He plans it every day to disrupt the class. And I never saw it. And I thought that I would be able to, I would shut him down. Well, today's going to come, and today I will shut him down, and today I will shut him down. And I never did. I was never able to. Until I said, okay, this is a game, this is what he's trying to do. So I had to change my approach towards him because he had an audience. I was never going to win. Ever going to win. So I learned to say, okay, I would just put him off, do what I had to do to get the other kids going. And once he realized he didn't have this audience, then the class became under control.
Yeah.
But it took me to be able to recognize when the student coming to me saying, he's sucking you in every single class. So if you try to go toe-to-toe with that kid, you will not win.
What's his name? Kareem Spence.
They are undefeated. So now again, I want to talk about hocus pocus. This is something that I used to do when I was younger, being able to point out things that are not there. So when you're talking about what you see, so in the quote that I love to use, which is everything has beauty, but not everyone can see. So even when they're using inappropriate language, they have beauty. Even when they're writing stories and it's so inappropriate, it's still beauty. We normally use Shakespeare as a measuring stick as to what good art is when it comes to writing literature. But in reality, Shakespeare decided that he was going to have 2 people commit suicide. I love me. One thing you're going to know before I leave here, I love me. And I'm not committing suicide for no one. I love me too much. There's no way in the world something's going to happen and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to drink something too. That's not going to happen. I'm not stabbing myself, none of that. It's not going to happen. But when you talk about Shakespeare, the stuff that he used and something he talked about is no different from what's in rap music. But again, it's coming from their point of view, and it's coming from what they have been experiencing. Again, when I work with some of the kids that are coming out of juvenile detention, some of the stories that they have is unimaginable. But at the same time, they still show up. And that's more important than anything. If you have a student that's going to show up, that means they're there for something. You have to find the beauty of someone being resilient and being able to just show up.
I want to go back to Darlene's example of Kareem, the kid that was bad in
Yes, I'm the one, the problem. I am the problem.
Every kid that's bad in your class now is named Kareem.
Absolutely. So I know somebody that named Kareem Martin.
But he talked about wanting to be the center of attention. So just to link it to one of the artifacts of hip-hop culture, we have this thing called cipher.
Yes.
And in the cipher, there's typically a circle. And in that circle, the MC steps in a circle. and he delivers his lyrics. And based upon the crowd's response, he'll either keep going or he'll sit down and be quiet. In that cipher, sometimes there's a battle that goes on. And if me and Kareem are in a battle, my job in this battle is to shut him up. By any means necessary, my job is to make him feel so bad about himself that he wants to stop rhyming. So you have students that are attached to that particular culture. So when they step into that classroom, Kareem no longer is an MC, Kareem is now a teacher. My job and my duty is to shut him up. My audience is going to feed it. The more they feed it, the more I'm going to go into it. So being an educator, you've got to be like the MC that controls the crowd. You've got to be able to give them certain things, and if you get that call and response, that yes, yo, you know you got it. But if it ain't working, you've got to change your tactic.
Absolutely.
So that cipher part of it too is also an element that you're going to start to see inside of your classroom. We can also talk about bullying and all that stuff too, but it's sort of the same type of thing.
Yeah, so when you have the 4 pillars of hip hop, use them to your advantage. So there's a show it's called Drop the Mic, where though they're there, and again, if you really want to get them to control your classroom, you have to make sure that everybody's on your side. Now what happens is that the students in themselves will dictate the behavior of other people. You can't stand toe-to-toe with one person and 24 other students. That's never going to work, because they're going to be ooh and ah. Oh, this is Josie, that's what he said about you every day. And every day they're going to come to school, there's going to be a lyrical battle. Every single day. And if you're not prepared, if you have nothing in your bag of tricks, you just lost your classroom for 180 days. And this will happen every single day. And you'll be saying, hey, Mr. Spencer, can you come get such and such? I just need him out of my classroom.
If I can interrupt there?
Yes.
I used to give that kid a pass every day with no time. Just would you leave the class? And that's how bad it became. Until that one day he didn't want the pass anymore. But that's how bad it became, to the point that I was a green teacher, I was brand new, I had this kid, and I would just say, here's a pass. Somebody says anything to you, you say, Mr. Hahn gave you a pass. Like, that's how bad it became. He won.
Yes.
One of the strategies that we talk about in terms of the cipher, we teach teachers to create ciphers in their classroom. So we take math, for example. We take our math teachers and we have them, students stand up in a circle. So the kids will start clapping to a beat, and this kid will step inside the circle. And instead of rap lyrics, they're spitting off math facts. Now we're creating an environment where I can still have a voice as a student in there, still feel like I have an audience.
Yes.
Now I have to think about these math facts. So now I put them in a battle. They're battling back and forth. And then you got the crowd participation in there. You still have this ongoing dialogue within that context. So what we did was just took the idea of the cipher and brought it into the classroom so that the students will have this battle.
Yes. So when you have students that don't know math facts, you're going to have that one challenging student that doesn't matter what you do, you send them a tutor, you get them a tutor, you bring them in for extra help going after school, you bring them in for extra help even during lunch, and he still doesn't, you're not reaching him because you're not using the correct tactic, you have to use the right bait. So all the kids, no matter if they're quiet or if they're loud, they all love attention. So when you have a cipher, where though you have a circle, just like my partner said, now what happens is that you balance back and forth. 2 times 2 is what? 5 times 5. So now what happens is that everybody's engaged. Now you get the ooh and you get the ow. And now everybody wants to come to your math class because it's fun. That's it too. The whole marketing scheme is using certain type of music so people can be engaged and go buy their product. Education, for whatever reason, we're always the last ones at the table, and we haven't bought into hip hop. It works.
Now, it's just beyond, also hip hop is beyond schools as well. There's a hip hop cultural envoy, Tony Blackman, and she talks about the art of ciphering and the art of engaging kids. So this is a short. So what we have to realize that the average student spends the equivalent of 3 full years in the classroom uninterrupted. That's a whole lot of time. And during that time, we have to find a way that we can engage all students. We have to be able to reach all students. So we have to be able to find different varieties of ways to utilize them, to utilize what we know in a form that they're going to understand. One of the ways that we have
is how to increase the scores in the math classroom. So there are a lot of different ways to do it, and you can set it up in this cipher type of situation, not necessarily where they're in a circle, but in a place where you're presenting them with something that they can start having a conversation. So you can either create 4 groups or 5 groups, however you want to do it with the students, present them with a problem, and have them work it out, and then battle with each other as to how they solved it, why they solved it that way, and put all of those components into your classroom instruction. Instead of you being that person presenting the information, you're going to give them something for them to have to be able to find a solution. There were 4 people that I followed: Andrew Stadel, Dan Meyer, Eric Milo, he's out of Rowan University, New Jersey, and Robbie Kaplinsky. And what they have created is, when you get to this, I think it comes up, or PowerPoint will be available on the website, but they have this thing called 3 acts, which I'm going to show you what that looks like. And that 3 acts is how you get them to thinking and to talking. So I'm going to give you an example of what it looks like. And you go to them and you say, how many baskets will they make in 1 minute? That's a lot of math. That's a lot of discussion. That's a lot of math. That's a lot of talking. So you let them work it, you let them figure out what their solutions are going to be, you have them talk to each other, whether it's from group to group or whatever the case may be, and then you have them talk about it. This is a population, ladies and gentlemen, where they're not going to sit back and just listen. There are a group of students, a population, where they want to do, and they want to be heard, and you have to allow them to have that opportunity. So what happens is that you're now taught, whether it's ratios you're teaching, whatever the case may be, you have created an environment in your classroom that's something they can relate to, because it's basketball, they have everything. They even have one on toilet paper.
Now, here's what's going to happen, because I am the opposition student in their classroom. Well, I bet you if I was shooting 3s, I'd be able to make it. This is where my mind will go if I'm sitting down here and watching the video. And you have to be prepared for that opposition student, that no matter what you throw at them, they have something to say. That was me. I always had something to say. Right, wrong, or different, I had something. But again, when you're going to your bag of tricks, you have to be prepared.
So going back to the cipher and going back to this rap battle thing. So when you're in a rap battle, you take what the other person is saying, you kind of flip it, you kind of respond back to it. So as a teacher, now when my student comes to say if I was making 3s, I would have made it all that stuff, I would have flipped it back on. Now that's another math problem that I'm throwing right back. And you're absolutely right. If you made 3s, so how many 3s do you want to make in points and all that stuff? So you have to be on your feet and be able to respond back to it.
But it's just all kind of ways where you can get this total participatory problem solving and activities that kids can do that will bring in this discourse, that will bring in this opportunity for the kids to be heard. They have to be heard, and you have to trust that that can happen in the classroom. And this is another part of trust. This is, you might know what this is a picture of? David Blythe, exactly. And the reason I use this picture is because he was surprised that that kid could beat him. That the kid had something off or more powerful than he had. And that's the mentality that you have to bring into the classroom. You have to embrace what the kids have to offer, what the kids can bring into the classroom. And to realize that you're not the only one with the armor and the shield and the spear, that you are willing to accept and receive what they have. Which brings us to the path.
All right, I kind of wish next door they have social and emotional learning. I kind of wish we were kind of doing this together. One of the programs that we offer is something called musical pathways. And basically what we do is we teach the students how to write hip-hop lyrics and hip-hop songs and the business behind hip-hop. But we have them tell their own personal stories, their own struggles, and the things that they're afraid of, and the things that they enjoy to do. So we kind of put it in that context and trying to give them a voice to be able to do that. So the purpose of it is so that students will feel connected to the school and feel like it's a place where I can express myself and be open and say the things that I need to say. We take it on from obviously the writing portion of it. So they're actually writing their story and in paragraph form first, and we kind of break it down and get certain elements and how to structure it musically so that it fits hip-hop. We teach them also production of hip-hop music so that they can put it to music. We also teach them the business behind it. So they're actually making a CD. They're actually promoting their CDs. They're actually out there trying to get their voice beyond the confines of the school. So now they have a voice that's out there, but it's in a controlled environment, and we let them explore their inner selves. So that's really, really important. We're going to open up for questions, but personal story of mine, I wish I put the picture up. I came from a broken home, didn't have a father in the house and all that stuff, the typical, story that I heard 1,000 times. There's a picture of me in a yearbook, and I have a red bandana on, and I have a red checkerboard jacket, and I have a book bag. And everyone that looked at that picture, it was in the yearbook my 11th grade year, they thought that I was a gangster and a gang member. Like, I'm the farthest thing from a gang member that you will ever see. And I've sold drugs, never did anything of that nature in my life. But these teachers put me into this box. And the more they put me in the box, the more I fought. So I became that student that was defiant. I became that student that didn't want to do the work in the classroom. It wasn't until a teacher actually stepped outside of that box. And what happened was, at least in my neighborhood, you had to sort of earn respect before you give it. A lot of us in education think because we're the adults, the kids should automatically respect us. But when we talk about this hip-hop community, it's about respect a lot. So my neighborhood, you had to have a reason to come to the neighborhood, and you better know somebody that was going to vouch for you to be in that neighborhood. This one teacher took his time to come out. I was a basketball player. He made me shoot 500 foul shots that day. And I looked at the man, I said, if you were brave enough to step outside of that box and come meet me over here where I enjoy basketball and love hip-hop music and things, and you were willing to take that time to make that connection, he earned my respect. And I would go through a brick wall for this guy. I still have this conversation, I meet with him constantly. When you make these connections with these students outside of that box that we're trying to put them in, it makes that relationship strong, and they will do anything for you. The problem we have a lot is that in a case, a kid might have 6, 7, 8 classes in a day. In every class, the teacher is putting them in a different box, not leaving them outside of that box. So once you step out, you'll be able to pull them back in here, but there's times that you need to step out of that box. On behalf of my partners, I'm going to open up. You have something to say?
I just want to piggyback on that when we speak about moving the kids where they are. I got transferred to another school as vice principal, and cafeterias, we have 3 lunches, and each lunch has about 300 kids in it. So it always has to be an administrator at lunch. So this one kid, new to the school, has his reputation of being a problem and challenges you, an extremely challenging student. Decides in the cafeteria, and I went up to him, sitting in the wrong place, so I just went up and I said, so you go back to your section. They sit like colors, class or school is divided into colors. So as I turned to walk away, the kid decided behind me to give me the double bird on my back in the middle of the cafeteria, and I wasn't aware of it, and I wish I wasn't aware of it, but the teacher made me know, told me. She was like, Mr. Hahn, I just gave you the finger, with your hands behind my back. And I'm sitting there like, wow, there's 300 students in there. I was on the spot. So either I react to it, which I learned from what I taught, I'm not going to do that. So I just went up to the student and I just said, just need you to come outside. And he walked out of the cafeteria with me as he's walking, he's putting on a show, and he's giving me more birds behind my back as we're walking out of the cafeteria, which I didn't know until I watched the video. So I wasn't feeling some kind of way. So
she's being polite right now.
So I'm walking upstairs in my office, and I was so angry, but I just had to control myself because you gave me the finger in front of 300 kids, and then you're thinking in your mind, does everybody feel they can do that now? But I knew better than to go toe-to-toe with this kid. He was in his element. If I would have said anything to them, I was extremely respectful. I never changed that part. I gave him that respect. Even though he didn't give me any, I gave it back. Even as he walked up to my office, he's yelling, what did I do, Mr. Hunt? I didn't do anything. And he's yelling and loud. I just stayed steady. I just stayed on task. So to make a very long story short, he ended up being suspended because I did suspend him. But he ended up becoming one of my favorite students. So one time towards the end of the year, I went to him and I said, Eric, why did you do that? Why did you be so disrespectful and give me the finger?
He said, because I wanted to see what you would do. He goes, teachers in here yell at me like I'm a dog. And I wanted to see if you were gonna do it too. So he was prepared for me to yell at him or try to do something to him in front of that group, and I guarantee you, I would have lost. So the fact of the matter is, I gave respect. He ended up giving me respect tenfold back. So we have to remember, when they put you on the line, you can't break what you know that's respectful, because he wanted to get the respect in that cafeteria. And I still remain respectful. And that's how I became known in the school that I'm still at today, is that I always give kids respect. And that's one thing that you have to remember. They know they're going to get respect, they will not disrespect you. But they will challenge you. I mean, his grandmother gave me pasteles, she used to send me food, everything, all the time. But that was my challenging moment. If I would have gave him a cipher, if I would have gone toe-to-toe with him, I lost in every way that you could possibly imagine.
But she's not telling you when she's sending the kid when he's walking out, she's getting out.
In front of everybody.
I was envisioning it.
She can tell her the real stuff.
At the end, just I guess to wrap it up, it's just we got to be careful about how we perceive hip hop, and we got to understand that what we see in the mainstream media isn't technically what the culture is about. They're trying to sell records, they're trying to make a living. Unfortunately, people are buying it, but there's a deeper culture that exists. And when we look at these behaviors, behavior is a byproduct of something else. It's a symptom. And when we keep going after these behaviors, it's kind of like you're having a cold. You get the sniffles, you get the medicine, yeah, it might go away, but guess what? The cold's going to come back, and you're not dealing with what the true cause is. So when you see these behaviors in your classroom, you got to understand that it's coming from somewhere. We got to dig deep in there, and hopefully programs like Musical Pathways and things that we have going on will help you to be able to address those things in the creative. But hip-hop's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for a long, long time. Another thing, before I close out and open up for questions, is that you have to be authentic when you are dealing with students that embrace the culture. Don't try to fake it. There's a scene in the movie Dangerous Minds, I believe. And the teacher went in there and kind of was like trying to be hip hop, like yo, 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 and the kids kind of destroyed it. Like hip hop respects authenticity. Be you. Don't be afraid to say, I don't understand. Can you help me out? Don't try to fake it, because hip hop will call you out every single time. And they will try to make you shut up every single time. So,
I have one.
yes, sir.
How do you approach this with the students who don't care for hip hop, who are in there, they like country, they like anything else, and they're bringing in a different culture than they're about? How do you deal with that particular side? Because they can make just as much trouble because they don't care for it.
So when I open up, we talked about being students of your students. So we can take this and change it to country, not necessarily just hip hop. I read Harry Potter, not because I love Harry Potter, that's what my kids are reading. That's what I read. So my wife asks me all the time, why are you still listening to hip hop music? Because that's what they're reading and they're listening to. So in order for me to be able to relate to them on any level, I have to know what they're into. I have to be on those social media sites, I have to do it, otherwise how am I going to reach them? I listen to country music sometimes. Keith Urban, that's my boy. I'll listen to it, not because I like it, because my job is to connect with students and to connect with people. So I need to know what they're doing so that I can have that conversation. We can turn it into something. Maybe they'll teach me something about it.
So now what happens is that if you come in, you have your students come in your classroom, so one day you may play something that's appropriate at that, what they like. Right? So then you bring in something that he may like. Now, what something do you teach them?
Teach choir.
You teach choir, okay. So now what happens is that now you can have an open debate about music. And now you start breaking down the lyrics and the messages and being able to draw out the underlying meaning of what they're trying to say. So now what happens is that you have a choir that everybody's embracing everyone. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you, based on what I heard today, there's like authentic hip hop.
Yes.
And then there's hybrid hip hop, which is more mainstream, get the kids hype and,
You have to understand.
I know it's a money thing, but
Okay.
how do you, my question is, what sources are there so you can teach them the difference between what was, you know, and what is.
Okay. So KRS-One, one of my favorite. You write it down. Okay, that's K-R-S. Okay. So he did a presentation and he talked about what hip hop was. It's about a 3-hour presentation. So he breaks down the actual root of what hip hop is. But to go a little bit deeper into your question, you're a teacher, right? Your whole job is to be creative as possible. So now you can actually, what class do you teach?
Theology. Theology.
Theology. Oh, man. So now you talk about theology? So again, you're talking about young kids, 16, 17 years old, starting something from nothing. And you can connect that to anything that has happened in the past. Everything. Hip hop is something that is universal and it's for everyone. Derek?
I just want to say a lot of the KRS-One's later work has been inspired by his renewed faith in Christianity.
Yes.
So picked up some of that stuff.
Right.
Spiritual mind is work on the mind.
KRS-One is, he started here, and again, he continued to grow with his music, and now he's here.